Now we're moving out of the Mediterranean into the Swedish boreal forest, and the next presentation is given by Andreas, Wedman, and you're giving it together? Yes. Great, by also Johan, Rova. A dual act, thank you.
So, hello everybody. Thanks for a couple of great days here in Barcelona. We really enjoy being here. We want to talk about prescribed burning in Sweden, in Northern Europe. We want to talk about why we do it and how we do it. And we also want to say a couple of words about our ongoing project, Life Taiga. So first of all, I'd like to say that Sweden consists of coniferous forests to a large part. And most of those forests are commercial forests with forestry. And our focus here are on the protected forests like nature reserves and national parks. So obviously our forests have burnt historically. We have had many fires caused by lightning, of course, but we've also had people living here for thousands of years, so they have also started fires in the forests. If you go out in an old-growth pine stand in Sweden, you can still find evidence of this, of course. So this is a piece of dead pine wood that is probably 800 years old. You can see the signs of the old forest fires here, the fire scars. And in this picture, in the middle of Sweden where I work, the number of years between those fire scars on the picture would be around 40 years, which is kind of a common situation. The overall picture for Sweden is that the forests in southern parts burnt more frequently. So a forest down there used to burn 3, 4 or even 5 times each century. When we go up north, the forest used to burn between 1 or 2 times each century. So a forest in Sweden that is characterized by recurrent forest fires is pine-dominated. And the pine trees are of different ages, and we have a lot of dead wood in those forests as well. They are open and they are sunlit and they are warm. We have a lot of deciduous trees like birch and aspen, and the layers of organic soils on the ground are thin. Nowadays, this is more a common sight where we have a lot of pine trees, which are of the same age, all of them. We have little or no dead wood. We have very few deciduous trees here, and the layers of organic material on the ground are thick. Perhaps the biggest problem is that the only tree in Sweden that regenerates well when the forest doesn't burn are the spruce. So our pine forests are slowly turning into mixed coniferous forests, and over time also into spruce-dominated forests. So that's the major problem. Here's some perhaps a little basics, but the pine trees, they are adapted to forest fires. They have thick bark and high canopies, so they will survive a forest fire. You can also see that they get fire scars, and they produce resin to protect its wood after the forest fire. And that makes the wood impregnated by resin and very durable, so those pine trees, they will grow very old, 500, 600 or 700 years old. The spruce trees, they have thin bark, and they are very likely to die after the fire. So even a low-intensity forest fire with flame heights like this will kill most of the spruce trees. This deciduous tree, this is a birch, might very well survive the forest fire, and if it doesn't, it will produce new shoots from the root systems or the stumps. And after the forest fire, also really important is that we have new tree generation. And the pine trees that survive, they are standing there on the burnt area and producing seeds. So they will probably be the first one to drop its seeds on the ground. As I said, the deciduous trees, They are producing shoots after the fire, but they have also very small seeds that spreads easily with the wind. So the wind will carry seeds from birch and aspen into the burnt areas. Another way to look at this is to look at the species that needs forest fires. We have more than 100 species in Sweden that is truly pyrophilic, that really needs forest fires to survive. Most of them are endangered or threatened. But then we also have several thousand species that benefits from forest fires, that likes it when it burns. Good example is insects and beetles that live on dead wood. So here we can see a picture of a forest that we burnt. So you can see the pine trees are doing well, the spruce are dying or are already dead. We have thin layers of organic material on the ground. So how is it done, Johan?
Yes, prescribed fires have been undertaken in Sweden since the 1990s. The number of burnings per year have increased gradually, both as part of management of protected areas, but also as part of ecological compensation by forestry companies for their FSC certification. When planning a prescribed fire, we select forests that have natural fire barriers, and if not so, we try to use mineral soil fire guards or wetlands as barriers. Field staff then during a prescribed fire include, of course, the burning team leader and people involved in monitoring of fire behavior, weather monitoring, people responsible for ignition, for maintaining wetlands, and fire spot scouts, of course. Fire intensity, as you have seen in previous presentation, is done almost the same when we do a prescribed fire. The fire intensity determines tree mortality, and it's regulated by adjusting the ignition pattern in relation to the wind direction. And by igniting then one fire line at a time backwards against the wind, we can allow the fire to accelerate only at such a speed that it accelerates with the wind until it meets the previously burnt area, and thus we can control the intensity of the fire. I will show a short film what it looks like when we perform a burning. And here we can see watering outside of a mineral soil wetline. And there's the front of the fire, and a colleague to me, Mr. Anderson, is waiting with a drip torch to start the next ignition line there. And this is a protected area where there have been a lot of Pinus mugo that we have taken away, and we will transform it into a more natural Pinus sylvestris forest. The weather is the most challenging issue for prescribed fires in Sweden. Summers can be really, really wet, and thus often fuel has no chance to dry up enough between the rainy days. And because of that, the number of possible days for burning are quite few. And this is weather last year in central Sweden. And the blue stripes are days with precipitation, and as you can see, there is almost always precipitation every week. So it's quite difficult to plan a burning in advance. And usually we just have 2 or 3 days planning ahead before when we know that a fire can be done. And we use mobile fire stations to monitor the weather at the specific sites. This is an aerial picture of a prescribed burn. And our experience says that the area of a prescribed burn shouldn't exceed 50 hectares. If it's larger than that, it's difficult to finish a burning within 1 day without having to increase ignition speed and thus kill too many pine trees. This is a 30-hectare burn, It was done in one day, and as you can see, intensity became maybe a bit too high, so we got quite a lot of dead pine trees here. It's okay, but maybe a slightly more survival rate would have been better. Now the Life Tiger project, it runs for 5 years, started in 2015, runs until 2019. The project budget slightly exceeds 11 million euro, and half of the money comes from the European Union and half from Swedish government, the Swedish governmental nature conservation funding. All prescribed fires in the project are done in Natura 2000 sites, which are usually also protected as nature reserves. And the main aim are the habitats, European Community Habitats 9010 and 9060. That's Western taiga. And there are several species of common interest that benefit from this project. And in total, we will perform about 120 burning events, in totally covering about 20 square kilometers. And by this European community funding, we have been able to burn larger areas and at many more sites than what would have been possible with just the ordinary governmental funding. So thank you.